Oh, okay. All right. So one of the questions that people have been asking or we've been talking about is, oops, hang on, I got feedback here. All right, is are the console wars finally over? And that is to say, do you need to get a PlayStation 6? Do you need to get the next generation of Xbox that's coming out? If you have a PC, do you need to get any of these things? So I know this is a dated article. This goes back to the spring, but it's basically the idea that with subscription services like Game Pass and with PlayStation Plus Premium, I have both of these. I don't actually need to own the hardware anymore. If I have a gaming PC, I can just, get everything on that. I can go onto Steam and I can go onto Xbox Game Pass. And there's another interesting thing here too, which was, on Game Pass, one of the things people love about it and that I like about it is I'm paying $20 a month, and I can get this $70 Indiana Jones and the Great Circle game on day one, or Doom: The Dark Ages. Yeah, I know. I've only played like 4% of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle because I'm in one of those you have to sneak up on somebody stages, and I'm stuck because they keep alerting me. Let's see. Doom, however, mindless fun. If you want a great pick up and play Doom: The Dark Ages, I love this one. Elder Scrolls. This was, yeah, I've hardly touched this one, but um, fun to revisit so far. I haven't had a lot of time on that one yet. And then Steam was, I was trying to think of what was the latest news and noteworthy, but we're getting off task. All right. So, one of the things people are looking at is on this whole do you need to, yeah, there we go. Sorry. I'm just checking this out. All right. There we go. Get distracted. All right. Go here. And we'll go here and see how this is looking over here. All right. Okay. What else do we have here? All right. So we wanted to look at, yeah, I know. I'm squirrel drifted off there for a second. I don't have a producer, so I'm like working the camera, StreamYard, everything while I'm on my own here. So we want to look at, is Game Pass, first of all, is Game Pass catching up to PlayStation Plus? So do a little search. PlayStation Plus, has a pretty nice ascendancy, and it kind of, I think these numbers are only up to 2023 for some reason, but they show it leveling out around 47 million users. That's PlayStation Plus subscription service. And then you look at Xbox Game Pass. And I think one of the biggest things here is the way that Xbox just kind of really gains here. They start out in 2020 with 10 million users, and then they're up to 34 million users 4 years later. That's a pretty fast climb. Let me go here. Let's go like this. Yeah, that's better. All right. So again, they're not where Sony's at yet, but they're certainly on their way. I mean, that's impressive. That's an impressive gain in a short period of time. And remember, you have an Steam, your PC users on Steam, so around 33 million users. So if you're playing Steam, and this is the other thing, Sony on Steam. This is something I didn't think Sony would ever really lean into, but with the very successful Stellar Blade sales, that really knocked it out of the park for Sony, and that was available on Steam. And let's see. Yeah. And so $59.99, not bad. You can see the reviews on Steam. Like, people love this game. Very positive reviews for Stellar Blade. And what else? All right. And then there was one more, which was, let's see. All right. So going back to, is the console war done? PlayStation, moving on. They're going to come out with the PlayStation 6. Xbox, they're going to come out with their next generation console. Let's see. PlayStation 6. I don't think they're going to say the price. So just a quick PS6 release date is currently rumored to be sometime between 2027 and 2028, with a possible price range of $600 or potentially higher. So they don't have an official release date or anything like that, but that's between 2027 and 2028. Let's see, next gen Xbox console release date, yeah. And then Microsoft is reportedly targeting 2027 for its next gen Xbox console, which I think we all know at this point that an Xbox is pretty much a Windows PC that's running ActiveX. It's not, if you're Microsoft in this situation, do you need to make a console when you have, most of the world's PCs run Windows? We wanted to get a little bit in this whole this all goes back to this whole Xbox Anywhere thing, where everything's an Xbox, right? Is this going to put pressure on Sony, which goes back to, can Xbox Game Pass catch up with Sony PlayStation Plus? Well, I mean, based on how they're doing, they're making a really good effort here. So at 34 million subscribers, and then of course if they've bought out Activision and Bethesda, so I think if you're Sony, you have to continue to look like Sony. I think has been making more and more things available on Steam. I think if you're Sony, I don't think you have to give up on hardware, because Sony has such a, I don't want to say fanboy, but I mean, my first Sony console was PlayStation 2. And to this day, I think it's one of the best consoles I've ever had. And when I talk to people, what was your best console? PlayStation 2 is up there. Great console. And because during the whole PlayStation 1 thing, I'm still a PC gamer. Get into PlayStation 2, I'm like, oh man, this is like the best thing ever. I didn't even own the first generation of Xbox. I only went over to the Xbox 360 when the PlayStation 3 came out, because when the PS3 came out, it was really expensive. And at that time, I was like, you know what? And Xbox kind of came in, undercut the cost. I'm pretty sure it was a lot cheaper. What was it? It was PS3 versus Xbox 360 cost. And so, so the Xbox 360 launched for $399 for the premium model, while PS3 was $499. But I think you also, at that time, like, HDMI was relatively new, and you had to spend a little more money for a PlayStation HDMI cable. I could have that completely wrong, but it was expensive, and $600 for the 60 gigabit model. So I kind of switched over to Xbox 360 for a while, and that was great, because I think one of the great things about owning an Xbox 360 was learning to take it apart and take the chip off the board, clean the thermal paste off, put new thermal paste on, put it back together. Because the Xbox 360 in the Ring of Death, I must have gone through 3 Xbox 360s. And I think after and they would you'd call up this number, and everyone remembers this, but you would call up this number and you'd be like, hey, my Xbox 360 stopped working. It's this red ring. And they're like, oh yeah, no problem. We're going to send you a box, and you're going to mail it to Texas. I'm like, oh, okay. And then you'd mail this thing to Texas, and it was like, I think mine, it took months for them to get back to us, and then they would send you one. And the one that they sent, one of them failed within 3 or 4 months. So eventually you go on, YouTube, and by this time people are already figuring it out. There's like people selling like kits on YouTube. They're like, oh yeah, for $10, I'll sell you up the hex wrench, the thermal paste, and there's like a YouTube video that walks you through exactly how to take it apart, put it back together again, and fix the problem. But yeah, that was the Xbox 360 journey. A little off the topic, but so, Sony relies so much on their hardware, and they are, I think surprisingly getting more and more into, let's see, PlayStation publishing. All right, so here you have the PlayStation Studios page on Steam. So we can see what's available. Yep. All right. The Last of Us, Days Gone, Spider-Man 2, Midnight Murder Club, Horizon. So yeah, you can play some PlayStation stuff on here. But I'm just wondering, and I don't think PlayStation is going anywhere soon because, again, they do such an amazing job. Are they going to have any kind of difficulty? Is Xbox going to gain market share here? Are they going to overtake Sony because Xbox is going to move into a position where, hey, all of the PCs in the world, or most all of them, a huge number of them are Windows based. They can play Steam, Xbox working with Steam, I think it's got to be a little concerning for Sony. And seeing Sony on Steam the way they are is, that's incredible. So I think they're going to continue. I think if you're Sony, you're going to have to keep doing this. The thing I wonder is, I don't think we're there yet. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think there's like on your Windows-based PC, I don't think there's the Game Pass app here for Xbox and the library, which I can just click on my PC. And voila. All right, so this brings me to another point, which Xbox recently did, for when the PlayStation 5 was coming out regarding virtual reality. When the PlayStation 5 was coming out, everyone was looking to Xbox and to Phil Spencer, and they were saying, hey, are you going to do VR? And Microsoft was like, no, we're not doing that. And they're like, well, Sony's doing VR. And they're like, oh, okay, that's great. Sony did the PlayStation, but the VR 1 with the PlayStation 4. And then Sony did the PSVR 2 for the PlayStation 5, which was more expensive than the console. And meanwhile, Microsoft and people, I remember this online, like people are freaking out. They're like, wait a minute, you're not going to do VR? Everybody's doing VR. And they're like, no, we're not going to do that. And so most recently, I saw the whole thing of where Xbox was going to be available on. There we go. I took that. So it's the MetaQuest 3S Xbox version. Yeah, there it is. Now, I actually have a MetaQuest 3S, which I picked up. It's on one of my other videos here. Let's see. Go here. Boom, boom. I'll pull this one up here. View channel. Yeah, this one here. I think I actually did kind of a nope, unboxing and everything else on this other video. And so I have the Quest 3 here. Yeah. That's not a good look. I feel like the camera is way too big in that section that was using OBS. But I really liked it. I thought the Quest 3S, now people are going to freak out when I say this, but it was so much easier to use than the PSVR 2 headset. Because the PSVR 2 headset was like, I felt like you were going deep sea scuba diving whenever you would put that thing on. There's actually a shot of the PSVR 2 headset there. It was, oh man, it was really expensive. And every time you put the PSVR 2 headset on, like, it's a great headset. I thought it was like amazing. Yeah, there it is, right there. And I got the adapter for it to play on, Steam. I like the PSVR 2 headset, but wow, it was every time you like put that thing on, it was like, going on a spacewalk. I thought the ease and comfort that comes from just throwing a MetaQuest 3S on your head and having the controllers. And one of the things I loved about the Quest 3S was just the pass through, right? The moment you put it on, it's like it's almost as heavy, or almost felt a little bit heavier than the PSVR 2 headset. But you put this thing on and you can instantly see the room around you in color, which you had to push a button for the PlayStation VR 2. You had to like find the button. Of course, you have this thing on your head, and then you have to find the button and you could see through. Now, I still think the PSVR 2 headset was amazing, but like the controllers didn't work. Like when we first unboxed it and we were playing like No Man's Sky, there were all these like glitch issues with like the trigger wasn't working. And of course, you could Google that and it was all over the internet that, yeah, it was a known issue that Sony had with it. And so, anyways, all of this time, Microsoft, I think there was something really smart in just letting someone else create the VR headset for you. Like just let Meta create the VR headset, and then you just put your software on it, because I'm sure it's pretty expensive for research and development and building a VR headset. And so I think this is kind of savvy. I'm still trying to figure out how much money Sony has lost on the PSVR 2 headset. You let me know what you think, but how much money do you think Sony's lost on that PSVR 2 headset? Which I had so much more fun playing the Quest 3S. Yes, there's a little more not pixelation, mirror, kind of a screen door effect, if you will, with the Quest 3S. You get a much better display with PSVR 2, but I just thought, man, the Quest 3S was, I used it a lot more than I did the PSVR 2. And I'm still trying to figure out if we looked at, I know we looked at one time, it was at VR headset sales numbers. And what did we come up with? I'm pretty sure the Quest blew the doors off the PSVR 2. Let's see. No. It was oh god, it wasn't. Oh, VR sales. Yeah, by brand, that was it. All right, so the Oculus, well, this goes back to 2020. I know there's one that had a more news story, but I'm pretty sure that the number one seller on Amazon was the Quest 3S. Yeah, let me see. And this one might be from, oh god, this was an old one. This is before. I need to find one that has, I need to find I'm looking at graphs here. So I'm trying to find, let's see if they have anything in 2024. In 2024, Meta dominated the virtual reality headset market, holding a 77% market share in shipments. 77% market share. According to Counterpoint Research, while shipments declined overall, Meta's strong position was largely due to the popularity of the MetaQuest 3S. Sony's PlayStation VR 2 and Apple's Vision Pro saw significant sales. I would question that, but faced challenges related to functionality, content, and pricing. Yeah, so I think I bought the Meta. I went over to like Best Buy and picked this thing up for, it was on sale for like $299 or $350 or something. And I had way more fun with the Quest 3S than I did the PSVR 2. I know there's something on. Oh man, it was PSVR 2. Sony's. I thought it'd been. It was impossible to find the amount of headsets they sold for the PSVR 2. I was trying to see what it was. So PSVR 2 sales have been slower than anticipated, while Sony initially announced 600,000 units sold in the first 6 weeks. Reports suggest sales have slowed since launch. Some reports indicate Sony has even paused production to manage a blockage of unsold units. So I don't know if you remember this story, but it was basically that Sony had made all these PSVR 2 units to keep up with demand, and that at some point sales dropped so much that, or they just weren't moving them off the shelves. So they allegedly stopped making them in the factory or slowed down production. A recent report suggested around 2 million units have been sold, but this is not an official figure from Sony. So slower sales reports indicate they were slower than expected. Production was paused. I think anytime you have to pause production for a product you're selling to people, it's not good. And we know that when Sony did like a Black Friday sale, I think last year, and they lowered the cost of the PSVR 2 during Black Friday, I think to compete with MetaQuest 3S, and they were like flying off the shelves, like people were buying them up. But my gut is telling me that Sony took a bath on these things. And again, the price point on that, with that $550 price point, we had to pay the $500 for the PlayStation 5, and then you had to pay the $550 for the PSVR 2 headset. And I don't know. Mixed Reality News gives sales figures. Let's see if it does here. A well-known VR studio estimate that, so about 2 million units. 2 weeks, and this is from this is going back to October of last year. So these are old, and it was saying this was around the whole Max Mustard thing. So around 2 million units were shipped, but if you go to, what do we have? The MetaQuest 3S during the... Okay, so what we were looking at, Quest 3S. Let's do this. Quest 3S versus PSVR 2 sales. And MetaQuest. Okay. No, that's so useless. So the AI response is like, well, exact sales figures for the Quest 3, and they're not known, but it's estimated Quest sold more than PSVR 2. Oh, really? Wow, I never would have guessed. No one has a Quest 3S sales number? Oh, for God's sakes. Let me see this. Quest VR headset sales numbers. Oh, thank you. Here we go. MetaQuest headsets have sold nearly 20 million units, with the Quest 2 being the most popular. Okay. While the Quest 3 is selling well, it hasn't reached the same heights. I'm trying to find... Okay. I'm really going down a rabbit. Quest 3 seems to have sold at least 1 million as a Reddit post. But again, there's quite a bit. Upload VR. This is a great, if you're into VR, Upload VR is a great channel. And they also have some great YouTube videos. And there, let's see. Yeah, it doesn't say what the time frame is, but I'm guessing, let's see. I would bet Meta is outselling PlayStation on that, on the VR headsets. Yeah, roughly $300 price range, and that's good. I mean, that's one of those things where, again, so Microsoft has someone else. I've used the Xbox app on. Let's see, I have a controller here. Hold on. All right, so you get this PC controller. Okay, this is Bluetooth. Even when I use this on my PC, I actually connect a USB-C cable to this port here because it's such a pain in the rear end to pair this thing with it just could be my PC over Bluetooth that I literally just wire it in, and it's, it's so much easier than. And one of the problems I've had with the Quest 3S is you have to pair this with the Quest 3S, and maybe I'm not going to do a video on that, or we'll pull up someone else's video on it, and comment on it, so it's fair use. So one of the things is you can get this. It's like a PC version, Xbox version. It's one of these, and if it doesn't pair up with the headset, it's fine, and it doesn't work. On the Quest 3S, though, it is purely, I think it's mostly streaming, but lots of fun, though. All right, let me see. What was the other one? So we went back to, going back to the console wars being over article. So we'll wrap up. I think Sony could, I think there were some big missteps with the PSVR 2 and Sony. I think that if you're going to do VR, I almost feel like you need a headset you can like pick up and play. I think the whole way it was a wired headset, and without the immediate pass through of putting it on. Again, I think if VR is going to succeed, it's got to be simple, and I think Meta kind of has that down. I have the 3S. A couple of people in chat or subs wrote in that the 3 is much better than the 3S, and I should have paid the extra $50. So I kind of had a little buyer's remorse over that. But we'll do that next time. I'm sure they're going to come out with more versions. Meta's talked about scaling back a little bit on some of the stuff. They were burning through a ton of cash on some of their VR stuff. So I think they were looking more at augmented reality or mixed reality, with VR being a part of that. But so PlayStation or Xbox, it's the long running question of the modern video game world. Yeah. So is the console war truly still being waged, or have subscriptions changed everything? So again, in an age of, Netflix, one of the top 3 streamers, and let's see, we have Netflix, Amazon Prime or Prime Video, and then Disney Plus. And I think Netflix is doing the best. Disney is allegedly not doing well with the streaming service, so that's kind of a thing. All right, coming up, before we wrap up, I just want to talk about a little game called RoboCop Rogue City. Now, it's not available. I could not find it on Xbox, but I believe it is available on the PlayStation. I was playing it on PlayStation, not on Steam, on the PlayStation console. And it's a lot of fun. So they're coming out with, they're coming out with a DLC. I think that's coming out real soon. What was that? Hold on. I know that's DLC release date. Hold on. Oh, I can find it. Oh, geez. There it is. All right, where's July 17th? That's coming up. We're on the 12th of July. Okay, yeah. So next Thursday, it'll be out. Oh, hold on. I lost it. I lost the camera. It's just me. No, I don't want just me. Nope. Bear with me here. Share screen. Nope. Okay, there we go. Add. Yeah, there we go. RoboCop. Okay. So RoboCop Rogue City Unfinished Business. This one's coming out next Thursday. Actually, let's see if you can pull up it on Steam. I want to see if there's a, or just tell me what the cost is. I wonder what this is going to cost for as a DLC. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. All right, DLCs for RoboCop Rogue City. Alex Murphy pack is $7.99. Vanguard pack $4.99. Digital art book. What? Oh, sorry. There's also the standalone expansion called Unfinished Business. Is that what I'm looking at over there? Yeah, that's it. Okay. All right, so that is $29.99. Is that on Steam? Should be. Oh, maybe they don't have it listed yet. That's all right. We'll find it. Okay, what else? All right, so anyways, if you have a chance, if you've never seen the late, was it 1989's RoboCop with Peter Weller, it's a lot of fun. Kind of. All right, so this is a DLC that's coming out. If you already have the game, we had a lot of fun playing it, and that's something to look forward to. All right. Whoops. No, sorry. There we go. I was on Steam. Here we go. Steam store. Okay. All right. So, your thoughts? Is Sony going to keep up with Xbox? They're already ahead of them. Xbox is gaining a lot of ground with the Game Pass subscriptions. About 35 million to Sony's 47 million. So they've made a lot of gain. Let me know what your thoughts are. And until next time, we will see you then. Have a great day. Wait, am I still on? No, end stream. There we go.